I'm John Edmiston. This is the Mobile Ministry Technology track. We prayed earlier, so I'm not praying again. This is what we're doing is we're looking at the use of technology, how you can use the technical world of the mobile phone to reach out for the gospel. The statistics you've probably heard many times from various speakers, but there's about 6.1 billion mobile phone accounts, about 1 billion or more smartphone accounts, and it's just exploding. The mobile world everything is going onto mobile platforms, whether like a cell phone or e-reader or a Kindle, your tablet devices. Computing is increasingly personal and increasingly mobile. and everything is becoming mobile capable. We find that the developing world, especially India and China, are rapidly catching up with 300 million new subscriptions in 2010 and more in 2011. I think that number's zooming up. So see 3G percentage is rapidly increasing. So we're finding that the actual device itself is now increasingly powerful and sophisticated. As I was saying just before people came in, this has more power than the computer that powered Apollo 11 to the moon. And the memory capacity of an SD card is now 32, the average SD card can fit 32 times the information of a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica. So that's an enormous amount of information, and we'll look at some of the potential of that later. So we are finding that nearly everyone under 40 is now, especially in the West, is increasingly mobile, and those under 30 are immersed in the mobile culture. They just can't. They're going everywhere with their cell phone. They're sending 80 to 100 text messages per day on average. When I was in the Philippines is one of the world text SMS capitals, partly due to the lousy traffic. You're stuck in traffic in Manila. Sorry, I'm late. Must be the most common text message sent in Manila because you're stuck in traffic all the time. And texting there is much cheaper than it is in the USA. What are some of the advantages of the mobile platform for ministry? Firstly, it's highly persuasive. A text message is the most persuasive medium of all. People pay more attention to a text message than they do to an advert on television or on radio or on print. So a text message, people will always check their text and they will read it, and it has a high level of believability. Professor B.J. Fogg at Stanford University in the Persuasive Technology Lab has come to that conclusion. It's personal, you carry it with you. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It allows privacy of viewing so that it's a personal encounter between yourself and the data. It's responsive, so you can SMS a reply, you get a text message, you send one back, you're interactive. And the average cell phone now has text, audio and video capability, so I can plug a little earbud into this and I can listen to my music. Of course, it's got audio because it's a phone. It has video capabilities, I can watch YouTube on it. And text, I can read a PDF file on it. You can store a large amount of data on the SD cards. It can act as a broadcast medium. So, for instance, I can plug this into a tiny little speaker that operates off it, and I can probably fill this room with the sound. Easily reach 25 people. It'd be a little much to reach this room, but certainly a smaller classroom, you can run a speaker directly off your cell phone. They're rapidly improving in their capabilities. Now, so what's happened is that the secular world has provided us with a personal device that we can put the gospel on. We don't have to invent the device. Samsung, BlackBerry, Nokia, Apple, they're providing us with the devices that is highly persuasive, highly personal, and there's 6 billion of them in the world. So where are we going to put the gospel? We're going to put it on the medium that people are looking at, using, carrying around with them every day. So this is the obvious choice for an evangelistic platform because it's persuasive and it's there. So how do we get the gospel onto this? We don't need to stand at a street corner with a bullhorn anymore, annoying people. What we need to do is get it onto their mobile phones. Here are some of the what we call ministry vectors, some of the ways you can minister using a mobile phone. Text messaging, using what we call email to SMS gateways. You can check, I'll talk about a little bit about that later. Basically, you send an email into one of these gateways, it turns it into an SMS, and the SMS is then sent out to people's cell phones. For example would be Frontline SMS or some other of the major email to SMS gateways. And the SMS, if they reply, it can come back to an email to you and you can edit it and send it back. Short evangelistic video clips. By short, I mean not too many people want to look at a screen like this for an hour and a half to watch a full-length movie. Some people will, but I won't. I think about 10 to 15 minutes is my maximum endurance watching one of these little screens. So you want a short evangelistic clip on here that makes a point, that tells a story, that leads to the gospel. MP3, that's an audio file. On these, very powerful. Audio is easy to edit, easy to send out, doesn't take up too much space on the device, and people can plug it in here, they walk along, they're doing their exercise, they're listening to the gospel. Whereas video, you've got to focus like this, but plenty of people are working out while they're listening to their music on their iPhone or whatever. And so if you can get the gospel onto an MP3 file, or so audio Bibles, like the New King James Version audio Bible, or the other audio Bibles out there, and various audio resources. Instant messaging, chat to mobile, Skype on mobiles. Most mobiles now, like such as Android and Apple, support Skype. And Skype is becoming the platform of choice for many of today's young people. E-books and PDFs, mobile optimized text resources, so you can read your e-book on your mobile device as you're going along. And then, of course, you want mobile optimized websites. Now, if you want to take down a term that you want to research, write this down: responsive CSS. Responsive CSS. Responsive CSS is, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Don't worry about that. Responsive means it adjusts to the screen size. So you can have a 21-inch monitor, or you can have a tiny little screen, and your web page will resize automatically and rearrange the contents automatically to the screen size that it detects. Now, it's not as difficult as it looks. There are people that can help you with that. There's good little books on responsive CSS. So if you're doing any web design, you want to learn that so that you can be mobile ready. Like we saw earlier, 25% of people even in the USA, are mobile only. So if you are not responsive in your website design, you're automatically excluding 25% of people, potentially up to 70% of people who are browsing the web. Bluetooth and nearcasting. Bluetooth is a protocol that sends about 10 meters, perhaps a little more, device-to-device communication. So one mobile phone can communicate with another, or with those little Bluetooth earpieces you use in California when you're not allowed to drive on the thing. So Bluetooth is basically a way of sending device to device. Now, in the Middle East, Bluetooth is a lot more used than it is here in the USA. And so people say Bluetooth, Bluetooth, and you'll send them a short video. It can be an evangelistic video. And people are always sharing around shopping malls, etc., through device-to-device communication. The other thing is streaming radio and podcasts to mobile. Who here has used Spotify or something like that, or Live 365? Right? Those kind of things where you've got streaming music coming out and you create a channel and your mobile device can, you just plays, you're playing your Christian music on your Spotify channel or your Live 365 channel or your other internet radio channel. Internet radio has a great future ahead of it. And sell tracts, like a little tract that you can set from mobile phone to mobile phone, sharing the gospel. Okay. Now, okay. Here are some of the links. Now this, right at the end, I will give you a link to this presentation, so you don't have to write this down. This presentation will be on the internet. So I think I replied to your tweet on that. let's go to the end so you can take it down. Come on. Please behave. I should have skipped to end thing, shouldn't I? I have long presentations. Okay. Hurry up. There, okay. Okay, now that's my contact details. Now this presentation you will find at cybermissions.org/articles/Biola. So you can download the slides and you can get all the links. And so don't worry about taking too much notes. And this is my mobile ministry course that's starting on June 26th. Only $20, 4 weeks long. You go to cybermissions.org/mobilemin. I'll give you just a second to take that down so that you're not panicking at the end of this presentation, because I always take too long. So here's some places. Here's some case studies and research we've got up there. Internet Evangelism Day is Tony Whitaker's page. It's very useful. Dave Hackett's done the Mobile Evangelism Wiki. It's a large structured thing. Mobile Ministry Magazine by Antoine. Wonderful resource. Do you want to plug it for a second?
I kind of do. I actually want to plug this plus a few more links.
Yeah.
Mobemin.info, MOBMIN.info.
Right.
It has these links, plus several more, plus videos.
Right.
Case studies, all of his article links.
Yeah.
Tons.
Okay.
And it's mobile friendly.
Okay, and we have Mobile Advance, which is Keith Williams. Mobile Ministry Search Engine, that's a search engine I put together that searches all the websites on Mobile Ministry and cranks out a result for you. So we've got that. That's my course, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't plug my stuff too much. SMS is the killer application for global mobile phone ministry. It is massive. There are trillions of messages sent. In the Muslim world, SMS is the preferred way of responding to the gospel. More people respond by SMS than by sticking their hands up in the air or walking down. Because people don't want to respond in public because of fear. So they respond privately by texting 777 to a certain number, and whoever the satellite broadcaster is picks up that message and sends back follow-up material. So text to email gateways. So if you have a big crusade in somewhere like India or Sudan and 100,000 people turn up, how are you going to follow up those contacts? I had a friend who had 1.2 million people turn up in one night in Ngulu in northern Uganda, southern Sudan border. How do you follow up 1.2 million people in an open-air crusade with miracles and signs following? You give them an SMS email gateway. They can text it, and back to their phone comes lesson 1, assurance of salvation. Then lesson 2, how to be baptized. Lesson 3, how to find a local church. And it comes back to their cell phone. And they can send their 12, I have 12 follow-up messages, and they can send the 12 follow-up messages to their cell phone, and they've got the follow-up material. They can send a link to a Bible in that particular language group. Say it was one Urdu or something in Pakistan, they can send a link to the Urdu Bible as an SMS message, and then they can get online to find the Urdu Bible. So URL for follow-up can be sent by return SMS. Frontline SMS is a solution for non-profits, very robust. Greater calling, click a tell, and there's a Wikipedia article on SMS gateways. So SMS is something that all cell phones have. Even in the one thing we don't realise is that 75% of the world's installed base of cell phones are dumb phones. This is a smartphone, it's a BlackBerry. But 75% of the phones that people actually have in their hands are the old Nokia 320s, the old phones that can't do a lot. But they can still do SMS, and they have a limited amount of memory, so you can send tiny little ebooks to them as well. But those phones have a limited capacity, and there's 75% of users only have those phones. So if you're going into the mobile world at the moment, until smartphones become absolutely dominant, the install base, what people hold in their hands, you really want to start thinking about SMS. Using mobiles for resource creation. If you want to, you see a lot of people on the news, you say, I report for CNN, the person has taken a video with their phone and then they send it into CNN. So CNN there is collecting resources that have been then collected with a mobile phone. So herein, we as a missionary, I want to collect indigenous resources in minority languages. I don't want to have to translate my sermons out of English into, let's pick that language I said earlier, Urdu, which is the language of Pakistan, and it's related to Hindi and things. So I don't want to have to translate. I would rather a good Urdu-speaking preacher was recorded and sent around the place, someone who spoke the language fluently and who knew the culture and the gestures and the appropriate contextualized things. So we have Pastor Joe in Pakistan. He's a great fiery preacher. One of his congregations holds up their cell phone, records Pastor Joe, uploads him to YouTube. A resource has now been collected in the Urdu language, which is now useful to the Urdu-speaking church. You can do it in Kiswahili, you can do it in Chinese dialects, wherever you go, you can collect the national preacher's thing, and then you can rip the audio off, put it as an MP3 file for the lower bandwidth users, and you can send that around. So the mobile phone itself becomes a equivalent. If you go back 20 years, to be able to record and edit video was thousands and thousands of dollars. Now you can just do it with your mobile device. So, but editing material just on the phone is still a challenge. There's not very good video editors that work on mobile platforms. What are you saying? It's okay. Right.
It's tedious.
It's tedious, yes. So it's very good for recording God stories in minority languages. Acceptable video and audio is now possible. And there are many free editing and file conversion tools available. We'll look at some, but places like SourceForge, Gizmos, Freeware, MajorGeeks.com will have many of those, and you just browse those sites. And for oral learners, now an oral learner is someone who prefers a story presentation rather than an analytical text-based presentation. And there's two kinds of oral learners. There's primary oral learners who've never learned to read and write, who can only read and write a little. So you go out to a village at the back of Papua New Guinea, and they've only learned to read and write a small amount. And these are what we call primary oral learners, and you want to present it in a story format, either by video or by pictures, cartoon pictures, or even by audio storying, because they're not going to read. They're not going to pick up a book and read. Then you have secondary orality, where the people can read and write, but they prefer video. And I'm finding this in ministry over and over again. I like writing. I enjoy print. But people say, where's the DVD of your teaching? They do not want to read an article. They want the DVD. So I'm slowly and reluctantly moving towards video, though I'm quite comfortable with generating MP3 files of what I do. If I wrote this out, very few people would read it, but kindly, that kind gentleman up there is videoing me, and people will see me on video, and people under about 30 years old vastly prefer the video to the print. And that can even, I have a brother-in-law who's my age who will not read but will watch anything on a video screen. So that's, and he's a pharmacist. These are some of the oral learners that we talk about. 70% of the global population are oral learners who strongly prefer not to read. So this is some of the links to them. And so they now own mobile devices, so we can get the audio and video to them. They need to comprehend the gospel. So how can we create gospel stories, worldview changing stories for them? that will work on the mobile platforms that most have access to, such as short video clips, audio discussed in a group setting, PowerPoints, animations, and Bible stories suitable for mobile screen. So you put your audio Bible on the phone, on an SD card, and you give them the SD card, and they play it. And they come to 1 Kings or something like that, and they listen to the story. Then they sit around and say, what does that story mean for us in this culture? What was happening to this character? What was happening to that? And they get in behind the story and they discuss it in their groups. And then you play the next little bit and the next little bit, and they discuss the story in the group. But they're discussing what they heard through the little speaker plugged into the cell phone. So that little speaker that can reach 25 people, connect that to an audio Bible, you've got an instant Bible college for an oral learner's culture. Of course, with mobile education, here we've got the projector phone. So you put the video content on one of those little SD cards, you put it in there, you can put a little speakerphone out, and that little projector can train a room full of people. And there are various ways of getting it out. You can have a thing called Poodle, which is a Moodle or a learning management system that you can actually run off a USB drive. MAF Learning Technologies has developed another one called DScribe and DViewer. A link to them is there. So there's various ways of having sophisticated learning systems that will work on a USB drive or a mobile device or a simple platform such as a Galaxy tablet or an iPad. So you can have these simple mobile education devices. Now, one of the challenges I faced, I did a lot of ministry in Southeast Asia, in fairly remote areas, and in areas where sharing the gospel was difficult and establishing churches were difficult, sometimes just for logistical reasons, such as it was very hard to buy the land because land ownership was impossible, or sometimes for reasons of persecution and hostility. And in those places, cell churches were pretty much the norm. You get 20 people together in someone or in a richer person's house, maybe 50 or 60 people in a villa, and they would meet, and that would be the church. And we would establish large numbers of these cell churches or house churches. The problem is they used to fall over theologically very quickly. You talk about rabbits and elephants. The problem with rabbits is they die pretty quickly. Rabbits reproduce quickly and they die quickly. So it's pretty easy to kill a cell church or a house church. And you would also get lots of prosperity teaching sweeping through them and other teachings that they've got off the internet or TV, or else that someone would have a dream or a vision and things would go, or there'd be a squabble and things would go all funny. So I said, well, how do we help these cell churches and house churches stay within the broad framework of the Christian faith without imposing too much cultural restraint from the West on them? And my idea was to resource them through a website. Give them reasonably decent, culturally contextualized training materials through a website that was within their own culture or in their own language. And they can go and say, okay, here's this week's lesson. It's on, it's in Bahasa, Indonesia or something like that. And we're going through the Gospel of John, chapter 3 this week. And here's your outline, here's this. And the groups can then go back to a standardized curriculum, which stays pretty straight. And so then they can download that in an internet cafe. They can take that on their mobile devices. So the website takes the place of the bishop. It's there overseeing the pastors and giving them, it's like the old church lectionary, the preaching through the year kind of thing, but it's a little more flexible, it's a little more straightforward to keep these house churches on track and to keep them in fellowship with one another so they can, these pastors of these small churches can talk to one another and strengthen one another, or they can use formal curriculum such as the Build curriculum or other curriculums around the place to develop themselves. And so one of the ways we can do this is equip them with a cell phone, with an amplification device and speakers, or with SD cards, and the SD card can contain the curriculum, and that can then be easily reproduced, go from device to device, person to person. It can go viral within that culture. It can can train 12 to 25 people. It's portable and not so obvious. And so we have repositories, a central repository, a central website. And the leader can go in there, grab what they need, take it to their congregation, and it's reasonably standardized. It stays within the Nicene Creed and things like that. Mobile video. Mobile video, well, I think I've got a link later to Keith Williams' stuff, mobileadvanced.org, that was earlier. Keith Williams has a good amount on how to do good mobile video. But obviously, video on a screen like this is going to be a different proposition to video on your 52-inch TV screen. So you can't have a busy background on this. So you just want basic head and shoulders kind of video. Otherwise, if you have all these cars crashing and things happening, it's going to be too small. It's going to be too busy on the eyes, too much detail. So you want to keep the camera focused on the head and the shoulders of the presenter with minimal movement. That's also because of the download rate. They're using 2G. They're using slower download speeds. So the refresh rate is pretty slow. So if you've got things changing very quickly in the frame, you'll get the buffer effect, and it won't work. It shouldn't be busy. It should have a simple background, limited movement because of the small screen size. Brief is better. PowerPoint to video animations work well. If you get a PowerPoint like this, and then you use a thing called Leawo, L-E-A-W-O, to convert the PowerPoint into L-E-A-W-O. You can convert the PowerPoint into a video. The thing with the PowerPoint is there's a limited number of frames. It's like really slow motion video. And because of that, it works well on the mobile framework where you've got limited processor capacity and limited bandwidth to download it. So it's a much smaller size of video. So say you get an illustrated Bible story like Noah's Ark, and each PowerPoint is like a frame out of your Noah's Ark children's book, and then you have the words underneath. So you have the illustrated Bible story, and so here in Papua New Guinea, we have the illustrated Bible story. First of all, it's in Motu, and then it's in Pidgin, then it's in English, and then someone puts it in Gogodala, and someone else puts it in Huli. But the same drawings can serve all 800 language groups in Papua New Guinea. You just keep the story pictures the same, and you change the words underneath. And so you can, by doing that, by having this PowerPoint to video thing, all you've got to do is change the text on the PowerPoint and put a native speaker's voice underneath it, and you're doing fine. So you're reusing the same photographs over and over again. And these small videos can go viral and be passed around by Bluetooth. Audio for mobile devices. Again, my Missionary, I want to stuff as much audio on an SD card and give it around in a developing country as I can. So how small can you go? 16 kilobytes per second, 11.025 hertz for voice only, e.g. preaching is fine. Audio is the only one-to-many option. If I'm reading an ebook, I've got to have my mobile phone here and I've got to squish the PDF around. It's pretty hard to read. If I'm looking at a video, only me and maybe one other person can look at that video. But in audio, I can plug in that little speaker and I can reach 25 people from the same mobile phone. So audio is the one-to-many option that a cell phone can deliver. Though increasingly, you can take an output from a cell phone to a TV set. And so that makes cell phone video something you can do. Okay. So, Antoine, how do you take the video from a cell phone to a TV set?
Two ways. You either need an adapter
that
converts the signal to composite RGB or RYG converter, or some of the later smartphones are now doing HDMI converters.
Right.
And so you can plug in the converter and then from a mini HDMI to exterior output, you can do that as well. So, and that'll play whatever the device plays. That'll play through projector, TV, laptop, anything that can project.
So also we're finding in audio there's increasingly amounts of radio coming through, and so there's radio chips increasingly being incorporated in cell phones. Nearcasting is Bluetooth, which I think I shared on earlier. Now, this is a slide, for many of you, it's how do I get material that can go from device to device? How can I make sure that it goes from my cell phone to my iPod, to my iPad, to my laptop computer? So you have this problem of what we call format conversion. And it is one of the big painful things about mobile ministry at the moment, is making sure that your thing on your Nokia phone can run on your BlackBerry, can run on your iPod or your iPhone. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's a thing called Format Factory, which is very useful and will convert your video or audio to something that will work on a multitude of different phones. So you need to get hold of Format Factory or FF Coder or Super to do that. Next Video Converter is also a good one. Mobi Pocket Creator is a great way to create mobile ebooks, along with Calibre ebook created. These two, you can create ebooks that will run on your cell phone or your Kindle or your laptop or your tablet. And ebooks are a very powerful means of content that people have finally got used to. And it's taken a long time. It's taken over a decade, but now they're ragingly popular. And so it's finally taken off. Audacity is a high-quality audio editing and file conversion software. It's really, really good. You can get your little MP3 player, record it on there, put it into Audacity, take out the glitches, add some effects, add reverb so you sound like God, or whatever, and you can do a lot with Audacity, and it's fairly easy to use. I have a friend who's in her mid to late 60s, and she wanted to record Bible teaching using Audacity. I taught her easily in 10 minutes how to use the software. It was that intuitive. It's not a big challenge. iSpring Converter will convert your PowerPoint presentation to Flash. Flash runs on everything except iPhone and everything except Apple. And am I being corrected there, Antoine? Almost.
Everything newish.
Everything newish.
Yeah, it's the version of Flash.
All right.
So if it's Flash 3,
yeah,
you're guaranteed for mobile use without ActionScript.
Right.
If you're using ActionScript or Flash 4 or above, chances are Flash breaks.
All right.
And breaks fast.
Okay. Right. And OpenOffice, which is the free Office software that you can get, it can be done, a PowerPoint to Flash conversion can be done in that as well. Apps. Apps are something that most of you probably won't run around creating, but many moons ago I developed apps. I developed an evangelistic app, and I found that I got 80 downloads on the first day. So it was a how to become a Christian evangelistic app. People love apps, and well, you can develop them fairly easily in a lot of these languages such as Java. There's Android apps, developers guides. Things called W3 Schools has a lot of tutorials on how to develop apps. These links, how to develop an iPhone app, whatever you want to do. So these are some of the app building things. Now, just skipping a slide here. There's a thing called PhoneGap. Now, PhoneGap is really neat. It takes what you developed with jQuery or SensuTouch, and it converts it into 9 different mobile platforms, so that it will convert it into an app that runs like a native app on BlackBerry, or like a native app on a Nokia or Windows platform, or a native app on iPhone. So your app runs nicely if it's compiled using PhoneGap. And so PhoneGap has become very popular, but I believe it's just been bought out by somebody. Adobe, right. So the PhoneGap is very, very popular, and there's a lot of those things where you don't want to have to develop 9 times. You don't want to have to develop your app for each different platform. So PhoneGap helps you to develop once, in HTML5, responsive CSS, which we don't get too technical about it, or in SetYourTouch, and then you can go into, then import that into PhoneGap. Okay, come on. Now, one of the challenges is to get to the last mile. I've done a lot of work in the urban slums of Asia, in Manila, Jakarta, and other places like that, where there's miles upon miles of people living in rubbish dumps and under cardboard. And they all have two things. They have TV and cell phones. They don't have much else in their life, but they have those two things. They don't have landlines. They don't have much in the way of the internet. And what they do have is pretty slow. So how do you get the training out to isolated rural learners and to Christian leaders in this new massive urban slum? Some slums contain millions of people, like the Kiberia slum in Africa contains, I think, like 1.5 to 2 million people in just one big massive slum. So, and the mobile phone is one of the few viable delivery platforms. It has a 50 to 70% penetration rate even in Africa. Oh, what's this doing? It's going automatic. So you deliver via mobile, and then you have a small group mentoring discussion around the mobile things, such as off an SD card. Now, this is the mobile Bible college that I'm trying to develop at the moment. And so we find that an SD card of 8 gigabytes will hold about 500 hours of reasonable quality audio. 500 hours of audio is enough to run a 2 to 4 year curriculum. And so you can put a 2-year Bible college course on a little fingernail-sized chip that fits inside your cell phone. You can even put that inside a coin, a fake coin, and take it into China. So you've got your Bible college on something that'll fit inside a fake coin that you can take to China or to Saudi Arabia or something like that. So the size of it is incredible. So you just get your mobile phone with your speakers, you take your little SD card in, you don't need internet access, it's portable, it's secure, it looks normal, you can train up to 25 people. It's useful for house churches, works with most kinds of phones. So you can put your Bible college on your entire Bible college on an SD card. This reminds me of my time when I was first a missionary in Papua New Guinea in the early 1980s, and we were literally paddling down the Fly River or the Aramea River in canoes, and I would have this is way before computers, and of course you would have your Strong's Concordance and your Young's Concordance and your New Bible Dictionary, and you would have this huge package of stuff that you had to lump around if you were to teach a Bible college and teach people how to do their resources. That entire library easily fits on an SD card these days. Another thing that is, it's a simple thing, but to me that shows the power of the internet. When I was first a missionary, it used to take 3 months to do a prayer letter. You'd be there and you would write out your prayer letter by hand, and then you would send that to a typist. The typist would type up your prayer letter. It would then get sent from Papua New Guinea to Melbourne. Melbourne headquarters would then approve your prayer letter. And then they would make 300 or 400 or 500 copies, depending on how many supporters you had. These copies would then be sent back to Papua New Guinea, and you would write a personal note on each prayer letter, fold it up, put it in an envelope, post it to your supporters from Papua New Guinea, because they would open it if it had a Papua New Guinea stamp on it. And so you would be doing in September, you would have to be doing your Christmas prayer letter. And this was a monstrous, humiliating, time-consuming, humiliating because people were censoring your prayer letter. And it was just a pain of a thing to do a prayer letter. And so now, what do you do for a prayer letter? Type it up in Word, add a few pictures, convert to PDF, attach to email, bing, gone. Your Christmas prayer letter is done in half a day instead of this massive 3 months effort. So, and so it's so much easier for us as missionaries to keep in contact with people. And the amount of junk we have to carry with us is remarkably less. Okay. Here in Manila, I'm working with a pastors network of 200 pastors. We're developing a Christology course to refute Muslims and a local cult which is a bit like the JWs, but they call it Iglesia in Cristo. And so we have a PDF textbook, but we also discuss the scenario in groups, and it's going to be like the SD, it's going to be an SD card-based Bible college and pastor training network there. Some other things that we're doing. That's our Campus Crusades developed something called Allergy, which is a mobile learning app, and it contains all the audio, video, and text needed for course, quizzes, final assessment. But what they do is they developed it for a certain kind of cell phone, so they give the same cell phone to the entire class, and the price of the cell phone is in the course fees, and so they pay, when they pay for the course, they get the cell phone. What's this doing? You can use SMS, Well, one of the good things about SMS is you can ask a life-changing question briefly. I do some discipleship with younger people, and I will send them a little provocative SMS like, what have you discovered about Jesus this week? And they've got to SMS me back. Or, you know, it might be a news thing, you say, how does this, and you can use SMS to ask a life-changing question, and people will respond to that. SMS is great for getting student feedback. To indicate homework to be done, please read John chapter 3 this week. Said brief content such as Bible verses. 6 brief messages a day can start saying it's changing someone's life. You could all you have to do is SMS them and keep at them until they do it. Here are some of the SMS tools available. A friend of ours called Stephen Keel has mobile evangelism kiosks. This is one of the, here, this is a thing called a Fit PC, and it's a terabyte hard drive here and some wireless things. That's an actual physical kiosk up there. And what it does is he will put resources in multiple languages on a wireless network. So you log into the wireless network, and oh yeah, I see free audio Bibles. And you click there and you can download the audio Bible in your language or some other resources such as the Jesus film. So you take one of these things along to a pastor's conference. There's 200 pastors gathered in the jungle. Set it up, the wireless signal goes out. They're bringing their devices along, such as their laptops, their cell phones, or their tablets. Oh, I've got a wireless connection. What's this? Oh, the wireless connection's called Free Audio Bibles. I'll check onto that. Being a splash page opens up, and on the splash page, once you log onto that connection, is all the things that they can download. During the day, the 200 pastors download away, collect all their resources, they scatter, you go to the next pastor's conference. And so now we're working with the California Baptist University to ruggedize this so that it lasts being bounced around on the back of a motorbike and can last through dust and that. I haven't heard back from them for a while, but there's some of the groups involved in that. Why is this doing it? I've obviously had this on a time thing at some point. MAFLT, ICCM, GRN, Side Missions, LightSys, Stephen Keel's the main driving force. Also, Gospel Recordings is big in it. They're helping, Antoine helps, and various other people. We all try and pull together to get something happening in this space at the moment. Orality, I talked about that a little bit earlier. Okay, I talked a bit about that earlier. Where am I going? 420, okay. I'm not getting into the metadata stuff, that's too complicated. Now, here are some of the links you probably want. It's Guy Keith Williams at Mobile Advance. He keeps looking around for the best practices in developing mobile video, and so he lists them on his website. Keith's a really nice guy. The Mobile Ministry Forum has a Mobile Media Best Practices working document, which is up there. Now, the Mobile Ministry Forum meets once a year, but there's a lot of phone calls in between. It's a very active group of people, and they're continually trying to develop how to equip the body of Christ to move into mobile. So that top link's very important. Media for the mobile screen, best practices, how to produce good video, how to shoot good video with a mobile phone, etc. I don't want to do that. I have a permanent tremor in my hands, which is a problem, so all my video blurs out. What?
Video stabilization in your phone.
Very good. It might help me. Maybe I'm just hopelessly artistic as well. This is something I understand. I don't understand video, but I do understand course design. And when you're using a new platform or any new technology, what you want to do, the technology is already complicated for the end user. So that you, except if they're very tech-savvy people to begin with. So what you want to do is have the course structured as well as possible so your student is as least confused as possible. So you have to design your course well. Who are you trying to teach? Who are they connected to? Where are they? What's their bandwidth? If it's a different bandwidth in Congo than in Japan. Japan has enormous bandwidth. South Korea has 100 megabytes per second or gigabyte to the home. So there's very different bandwidth constraints. What's their time constraints and opportunities? If you're in Los Angeles, there might be a lot of time constraints. If you're in Namibia, less time constraints. What are their learning needs? In some areas, spiritual warfare is the top learning need. In another area, it might be apologetics. Is the technology available and easy? What technology do they have? How do they learn best? There are various cultures have different learning modes. Some are great visual learners, some are great audio learners, some like text. Filipinos love everything on a PowerPoint for some reason. If it's on a PowerPoint, they'll read it. And so people have different learning modes. Some people love learning in groups. Other people prefer learning individually. Muslims need to learn in a private setting and they want walls beside them in a little cubicle kind of thing when they're learning because privacy is very high value in that culture. Can they use the materials or are they too complex? How can you tell if learning occurred? How do I know that you've learned anything from this presentation? How do you test, how do you assess that some learning has occurred in the human brain? How can you get feedback? In some cultures, getting feedback is nearly impossible. If I ask a Japanese person, did you like this? They would say, yes, because that is the polite thing to say. It may not be true. And so how do you get good feedback? Is there a real need for the training or is it just cool? Is that training scratching where they itch in their culture at this time? So you have to ask some background questions to try and get your training to scratch where the people itch. There's nearly always a need for teaching about Jesus. There's nearly always a need for teaching about prayer and spiritual warfare. There's nearly always a need for teaching about relationships. Those kind of things are safe central themes. There is less need for teaching on fringe doctrines. As much as you like those fringe doctrines, they may not be scratching where people itch. We have to think about delivery issues. If a person's got an iPhone or a BlackBerry, you can use a 3G, with a 3G connection, you can set up a smartphone app to the course. You can have SD cards, wireless, you can deliver the course wirelessly, Bluetooth, limited range, lots of interference problems. Mobile websites. Now the problem with putting it on a mobile website is in some areas the cost of downloading is extremely high and they're paying by the kilobyte. So for us, downloading is not an expensive proposition. But if you're downloading in Indonesia or someone like that, it is an expensive proposition and they don't want to download materials. So they'd rather get it free off a wireless connection, off what we were talking about earlier with the kiosk, than paying for downloading on a mobile thing. Now, Asterix is an interesting thing. Asterix is it's a kind of a server that you can use for making phone calls and things like that. So a person in most countries, it costs to ring out, but it doesn't cost to receive, except the USA. So In Australia or Philippines, if you receive a call, it's free to you to receive the call. But if you make a call, that costs you. So they make a very brief call into the Asterisk server. Then the Asterisk server calls them back. And they can hit the prompts, click 1 for Romans, 2 for Ephesians, 3 for 1 Corinthians. And so they click the button for 1 Corinthians. And then they say, okay, today we're looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 4. Okay, and then they go through the material and the questions, and it's all done from the computer. And then the computer asks the assessment questions, and I have A, B, C, or D, click, 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 and it's all done from the computer. That's being developed by Brad Rhodes at MAFLT. I was very skeptical at first, but it's now working in a few places around the world, and it's a very powerful system that's free to the end user. Oh, come on, stop it. Audio is universal, it's easy to make. Video has a, what's this doing? Oh, it's...
The projector timed out. So if you just hit the computer
the laptop button?
Yeah, it'll turn back on.
Eventually, okay. So while it's turning back on, do you have any questions?
Has anyone else heard of the freebibleimages.com?
All right.
It's they're doing very high quality, movie quality images of different parts of the Bible.
Right.
And it's free to anyone who wants to use it for ministry.
Freebibleimages.com.
Yes.
Beautiful stock
They're
images.
out of Britain, and they are just doing a lovely job, and they just want to give you visual images so you can add the audio to it or whatever you want to do with it.
Wow.
The only thing that's not played, they don't have yet are mobile formatted images.
Make pardon?
They've got the 4 to 3 ratio,
Yeah.
16:9 ratio,
Yeah.
but not yet mobile formatted video. More mobile formatted pictures, which are coming. I was told that's coming. It's an excellent resource.
Right.
If you want to steal images from somebody, please don't use Getty. Use them.
Well, and they say you're not stealing because they're giving it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely take the images from there. Really.
Give me the, I'll see if there's a pen down here, I can write it up on the board. What's?
It's freebibleimages.com.
Freebibleimages.com. Well, they haven't given me a pen to write on the board with. So it's freebibleimages.com. Freebibleimages.com, that should be easy to remember. Okay, audio is universal, it's easy to make, you can use Audacity. Video has a very high cost of production. I find it painful to do video. Other people are good at video, they get it intuitively, fine. But video editing, it's not uncommon to sort of an hour per minute or many hours per minute if you're doing good video editing. So video editing can be very difficult. Ebooks, you can use Calibre or various ebook creator things to get to your ebook format there. SMS is great for feedback, Story and Reflect for oral learners. Blended, you have the media on the phone and discuss in a face-to-face group. Training intervals. Shorter is better. 10-minute chunks, then reflect. That works for nearly all teaching things. Right? Just have a chunk, then reflect, chunk, then reflect. Simple interface is not fit. Use scenarios that teach lessons. For instance, use the scenario of a Bible story, such as the woman caught in adultery. Okay, here's a scenario. What should have they done? Ask those kind of questions to draw out the story and things like that. It's like some of the management training videos that you've probably seen. Also, because you're on a small screen, it's easy for someone to glance away because you're looking on a small screen. So your material has to cope with the fact that they're looking away all the time. So it has to be interruptible, unlike a big movie screen that automatically grabs your attention. You're looking at your cell phone and a dog barks, so you're always getting interrupted. So the material has to cope with that. That's again why shorter is better. Now this is some of my sort of my stuff there. Okay, so let's continue. I'll just put that there. Any questions at this point? Yeah.
Is there any stats as it relates to, like here in the States, I've always found it interesting as to how in age cell phones have, 8-year-olds have cell phones.
Yes, that's right.
When it started, only the 45-year-olds had.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Is there any stats available of how if that's happening internationally? Obviously, like maybe in Japan, younger kids have cell phones, but probably not at that 75%, feature phone, or not. Like in Africa or other maybe less urban areas.
Well, right. In Japan, nearly 100% of the phones are, no one owns an old feature phone anymore. They all own smartphones. Yeah. So Japan is very advanced in its cell phones, as is South Korea, as is Singapore. If you want a good cell phone, go to Asia. We get the old models over here. And so the Asia tends to have a fairly high rate of smartphone penetration, as does the USA. As for age group and demographics, the best way to find that, and constantly changes, is to go to some of the market research sites that deal with mobile demographics and things like that. Give me some names.
International Telecommunications Union, ITCU, my French is good still. They have all of the official information. They publish one free report every year in roughly June, July, that has all demographic information for all mobile carriers in all regions of the world. And it's one really, really large download.
Right.
They publish that on their website. And you're thinking just US, Pew Internet and American Life has a subset of that type of information. The Mobile Marketing Association publishes a report of Western European mostly. And there is an upcoming group that's going to be taking care of information for Sub-Saharan Africa and mobile adoption rates there. Those numbers were previously pretty hard to come by.
And then the very first one you mentioned, itcu.com.
I think it's itcu.com.
Okay.
It might be itu.org.
itu.org. It's the
International Telecommunications
they're
Union.
The ones that have everything comes through them.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So there are various people out there. Mary Meeker does a great report each year on the state of mobile and internet. And there are other groups out there, the World Internet Statistics website and others that you can get a handle on this. Again, it's changing so rapidly. If you're wanting to reach a particular area, getting local information is tough, but if you can get it, the better, the more accurately targeted you would be. And it even varies a lot within the USA. Some rural areas of the USA have really lousy mobile bandwidth, whereas other areas have great mobile bandwidth. And so you have to look at the coverage maps and things like that. So there's a lot of variance in that, and I would not try and reach children as in children under 10 on a mobile platform at the moment, but teenagers certainly.
Well, a lot of times it's a parent who would get it and then is showing it.
Yes, that's right.
It's over the shoulder kind of
yes.
Kind of experience.
I think a lot of parents now are wary of giving a small child a mobile phone because of predators. They don't want them groomed.
Right.
Yeah.
There are some things that are coming down the pipe to address that American, and specifically an American perspective.
Yeah.
Youngest age of children having mobile phones is roughly age 7
Right.
in the UK, roughly age 10 in the United States. And what Verizon and AT&T are coming soon with is basically a mobile phone plan, parent-child you will, relationship to the mobile phone plan, so that the parent knows, controls, manages the phone of the child. There's also a SIM card that Vodafone Europe is getting ready to release that does the same thing to address. They want the children to have the phones. If the children have the phones, then the carriers get more revenue. So it's to their advantage to make sure that first phone acquisition age drops as low as possible. And this is what they're doing to address those fears.
Yeah, just anecdotally here in the States, with smartphone penetration, you see this at a restaurant. Parents sit down, instantly they pull this out and hand to the kid. They carry on a conversation, and the kid sits and plays games on the iPhone. It's kids are using it even if they don't own it, even if it's not theirs.
That's right.
It's what I anecdotally see here. You know, just haven't read that, but that's what I see.
Yeah, I think anecdotal is good. Just if you keep observing, that's powerful. And there are stories there about usage that it's very interesting when I teach the mobile ministry course. Some of the usage stories that come, usage cases that come out of that, I think that's amazing. That's so creative. How did you do that? And some of them are way out in the jungle somewhere, and they've found a creative way to use their cell phone in their context. Any other questions as we're going on? Okay, we can finish early. Okay.
One short question. If you're just starting to think about putting content onto mobile, what's a good book or anything to just kind of start from the beginning? Let me check in my Kindle. I've got a book on designing and responsive CSS, which is probably the best place to start. It's to design a mobile website in responsive CSS. But I'm talking about a person. Yeah, I'm not talking about
a developer.
What?
I'm talking about, my husband is helping me get my product, and we're putting it on our website and our Facebook and Twitter and all the social media. But if I wanted him to start thinking for the future of how do we get our content for kids' Bible lessons onto mobile, or why you would do that, just baby beginnings.
Baby beginnings use WordPress. WordPress is a blog, and there's a WordPress templates that are mobile friendly. All you have to do is apply the template to your website. So use WordPress.
Okay, because I used to do my blog on WordPress.
Okay, and go and find a template that says responsive. That's the magic word, responsive. Right? And it's what? I like that word. Responsive CSS is the technology, and it will make your blog mobile happy. So go WordPress, find a template that works on mobile, start there.
Okay, thank you.
And so that's the easy way to go. Converting existing content to mobile is not a happy thing to do.
No, we covered that in my class. It is. It takes 15 minutes.
Converting what?
Your website, period, to mobile takes 15 minutes.
You mean I can take globalchristians.org with 5,000 articles and convert it to mobile in 15 minutes?
Give me a PC. I can do it right now.
Show him.
You email me that one, Antoine, and when I see it happening.
That's what I talked about in my
No, he did.
course.
There's sites that do it. Basically, there's sites that you go and put in the URL, and
You're using the mobile transcoder, so there are several content management systems, mobile content management systems, which are designed to take your existing website, whether it's the RSS feed by itself or the web pages themselves, and turn those mobile. And it will really take you at the very minimum 15 minutes.
Very minimum or very maximum?
Minimum. Maximum, let me see, using John Edmiston's time, 2.5 hours.
All right, well, you send me an email and that'll explore it, okay?
Do an article in your magazine.
You mentioned WordPress. Does Joomla have templates for mobile?
WordPress is a blog system. Joomla is like a content management system.
two separate systems.
They're two separate systems.
Right.
And I've sort of, I sort of always move towards Joomla, and then something goes wrong.
I've not been a happy camper with Joomla.
Same for me.
So I know you're a big fan of it, but go and ask the Joomla people.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah. So see if.
For Joomla for mobile,
Yeah.
to do a mobile site, if you can keep your template code base down, your output, not your input, the actual admin panels will never be mobile friendly. It's a pain in the butt. You'll find that in the forums when you start looking through. But your output, if you can keep your output templates trim, there are a few mobile friendly templates. There are a few fluid, not responsive, but fluid templates that you can use. They're older for Joomla, I think it was 1.7 or 1.6, that are usable, that can make your Joomla-based website and Drupal-based websites pretty mobile friendly, but you're probably better off using a transcoder. It's a less pain in the butt route.
Transcode.
What's a transcoder?
Web service or website that takes your existing web page and then transforms that into another friendlier output.
Very good. I wish I'd been at yours. Yeah, that would have solved a lot of problems if I'd gone to your sessions.
Hey man, I distilled it down to 10 steps too.
Oh, very good. Oh, yeah. Edward and I have known each other. Edward and I spend our life arguing with each other. So we have a good friendly relationship. So there's lots. As you can see, as you can probably pick up from this discussion, there's lots of little squirrely corners in the mobile world. And one of the best ways, just keep asking people about your problem, and you'll eventually find someone who knows the answer. And there are very few people whose heads contain all of the answers, because mobile is just, it's just snowballing. It's going this way, it's going that way. There's new operating systems. Like, for instance, the Nokia operating system just got dumped for Windows Mobile. So a whole range of stuff that had been on one platform has now gone to another. So the sea changes all the time. But yet it's the way to get the gospel out. So basically, if I can be encouraging, start where you can and you will get somewhere. Try and go everywhere, and you're going to drive yourself insane.
And I'll also add in that, earlier this year, I published what was called a mobile ministry methodology. If you're really looking for a starting point and you're finding, okay, how do I think about this? It is the only thing that exists right now. There's a book coming soon-ish, if not here already, called Click to Save, that offers similar steps to take as you're thinking about your internet, your digital, your mobile ministry strategy. Yeah. But those are the ways, those are the few things right now.
Tell me the one you...
Mobile ministry methodology. If you Google it, it's #1, and it will be #1 for a long time.
Is that something you wrote?
Yes.
It's Mobile Ministry Methodology, and it's on mobileministrymagazine.com. Mobileministrymagazine.com is his production. Cybermissions.org is mine. And there are lots of others. Mobile Advance is good. A lot of other websites around that will help you. And it's one of those areas where you just play and poke and try, and if it works, it works. Yes. And if it works, be happy. You've done something.
Please tell somebody about it. Tell me about it if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the challenges for mobile ministry, is that the success stories are quiet and the fail stories are quieter.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing wonderful things, but we would love to hear the testimony so we can get other people excited. You probably know this, but in the church world, everyone imitates everyone else. So if Saddleback has a success, everyone tries to be like Rick Warren. So pastors follow things that work. And so if we can find success stories of people being saved, people being discipled, this reaching 1.2 million people or something like that, then people will say, aha, we've got to go mobile because this works. Not too many people want to follow strategic opportunities, inverted commas, because they don't know where that strategic opportunity is going to lead. And okay, it may be very statistically obvious that the mobile platform's there, but They never heard about that at Bible college. At Bible college, I was trained to stand behind the pulpit and preach. I was never trained to do a PowerPoint. I was never trained to work with a computer. I was never trained to use any media. I was never trained to write a press release. I've had to learn all those things so I can multiply my ministry outwards. I'll tell you this story. The reason I got into internet ministry in the first place is I was in Townsville, Australia, semi-rural town, 120,000 people, fairly pagan. Australia is not a church-attending country, heavy drinking country kind of guys. And I'd teach a Bible college class of 15 people. And so I thought, I'm doing all this preparation for 15 people. This is really dumb. And I got on the internet and I thought, well, what if I put my Bible teaching, this is 1991, so there wasn't the HTML, there was just these bulletin boards. Put these up on BibleNet bulletin boards, and they spread all around the world. And so instead of 15 people, I was reaching 1,500. I thought this is a 100-fold increase on my productivity. All I have to do is hit upload, bing, my audience is 100 times greater. So I started developing for the web, and then in 1994, 95, 96, 97, I ran Eternity Online magazine, and I had 1 million readers a month for about the same amount of effort. So now I've gone from 15 people to 1 million people a month. I thought this is not too bad. So I have found that the web, now some of those articles I wrote back in 1996, 97 are still being read today. I'm still getting emails about them. The effort I put in to write the article back then is still paying dividends 15 years later. So I have found that by adopting technology, I have multiplied the effort. If I had just preached that sermon in a church, done it once, preached it, maybe 200 people would have learned, done, finish. By putting it on the internet, it's still hitting people 15 years later. So by forcing myself to be able to use technology, I'm making a semi-permanent impact on the world, whereas my traditional seminary education taught me to have a very temporary impact on the world. And if you talk to any of us who are pastors, we will tell you we preach to 200 people on a Sunday morning, like I did last week. I preached on spiritual gifts. I preached to 200 people in my local church on Sunday morning. Okay, 15 come forward to get prayed for at the end of the service. 185 go home and forget about it. So really I'm back to preaching to 15 people. And so I would much rather put something on spiritual gifts online, and then 20 years later I found out that 100,000 people have looked at it. So instead of 15 people, I've now got 100,000. That's a multiplication of effort. It takes a little more effort to push it out. But if you do it, if you think about using technology and how you can multiply effort, then you take you take the same knowledge, but you're just putting it in a format that can travel around the world. And as we go from device to device, how can you put it on the internet in a way that it can go to a cell phone, that can go to an iPod, that can go to a Galaxy tablet or an iPad? How can you make your content travel the globe? And so that's a question you want to answer, because you've got a message. You've got a message that matters. Like you say, you want to do these lessons or things. You've got a message that matters. How can you get it out to the widest possible audience for the least possible effort? Because I'm lazy, that's a big question for me. So how am I going to hit it? My objective, which I've only briefly achieved, is, and then it slides away from me and I'm nowhere near it at the moment, is to have 1 million people a week. Right? I would like to reach 1 million people a week with some form of gospel presentation or Bible teaching. So if I can get 1 million people, I think that was my challenge that I set myself in 1994. I thought, Coca-Cola advertises to nearly everyone in the world. They've probably got a marketing department of 1,000 people, and they're reaching billions of people. So each one of those people is reaching 1 million people a week. So how can I, with my limited brain, try and reach 1 million people a week with the gospel or some form of Bible teaching?
I use the Coca-Cola methodology in my talk. Seriously.
Yeah.
I like the way he thinks.
I don't say I achieved these things, but I set myself the challenges of going to scale. I think, how can we do it?
So I push myself out there to say, how can I get this to be big? Not just for my ego's sake, but for the gospel's sake. And then, then if I find a way that works, I share that with my brothers and sisters in Christ so that they can also go to scale in doing the things of God. Because we want to be out there, we want to start impacting people for Christ, and we want to make like you put 20 hours of preparation into a really good message. Why just leave that 20 hours on the shelf? Why don't you press a button that says upload and make it available to the rest of the world? I think we're nearly out of time. One last question, then I'm going to pray. Okay. Father in heaven, I just thank you. I thank you that you've been with us. I thank you that you've challenged us and provoked us. I ask that you'll give us a big vision for the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that you'll give us a specific vision that works for us, and that each of us will have a vision that's tailored to our personality, our knowledge and our talents, and that we'll be able to use the mobile platform or the internet or other platforms to get the gospel of Jesus Christ out to a hurting and needy world. I pray that no one will feel discouraged, but that everyone will feel encouraged and empowered, and that we will be bold enough to go forth with the gospel, and we will put our message that you've given us in our hearts out to a world in an effective way. So show us what to do, help show us where to start and what to do, give us the motivation, and bless us so that we can glorify your name, we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.